Chapter Portent, Megaliths, Precession, and the Great Celestial Cycle. Long before written language, before recorded history, before cities and empires, there were stones. Massive stones, carefully positioned, aligned, and erected in patterns that still puzzle modern researchers. Across Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Americas, megalithic monuments stand as silent witnesses to a deep relationship between humanity and the sky. Stone circles, standing stones, dolmens, passage tombs, step pyramids. These were not primitive constructions. They were astronomical statements. The sky before science. For early humans, the sky was the most reliable pattern in existence. The sun rose and set with unwavering consistency. The moon changed shape in predictable rhythm. Constellations shifted gradually through seasons. Over generations, observers noticed something even more subtle. The stars themselves slowly drifted. This slow drift, almost imperceptible within a single lifetime, becomes visible across centuries. Today, we call this phenomenon precession of the equinoxes, the gradual wobble of Earth's rotational axis, completing one full cycle approximately every 26,000 years. But long before it had a name, it had observers. The question is not whether ancient people watched the sky. They did. The question is how much they understood. Stonehenge and the lunar standstill. Stonehenge is often associated with solar alignment, particularly the summer solstice, but deeper analysis reveals lunar precision as well. The moon does not rise and set at the same points each year. It follows an 18.6-year cycle known as the lunar standstill. During this cycle, the moon reaches extreme northern and southern rising positions. Some researchers argue that Stonehenge encodes this cycle within its arrangement. Tracking an 18.6-year lunar pattern requires generational continuity. It demands patience and collective memory. Such precision suggests that sky observation was not occasional curiosity. It was institutional. Stone circles were observatories, but they were also sacred theaters. When celestial events aligned with stone markers, the event became visible, undeniable, communal. The sky performed. Göbekli Tepe, before agriculture. Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey predates agriculture by thousands of years. Massive T-shaped pillars arranged in circular enclosures display intricate carvings of animals and abstract symbols. Some researchers propose astronomical correspondences within these carvings, possibly referencing constellations or significant celestial events. While interpretation remains debated, one fact is undeniable. Organized monumental construction existed before farming. This suggests that cosmology may have preceded civilization, that the need to align with the sky may have been foundational. Stone may have come before settlement. The age of the bull. Throughout ancient history, symbolism shifts. In early Mesopotamian and Egyptian cultures, bull imagery dominates. The bull appears in temples, myths, and iconography. Later, ram symbolism rises in prominence. Later still, fish imagery becomes central in certain traditions. These shifts may correspond to the movement of the vernal equinox through zodiac constellations, a result of precession. When the spring equinox occurred in the constellation of Taurus, bull symbolism flourished. When it shifted into Aries, ram symbolism gained prominence. Later, Pisces imagery became widespread. If this interpretation holds, then ancient myth and iconography were responding to slow astronomical drift. Precession becomes mythic transition. Ages change. Symbols follow. The Great Year Precession completes one full cycle in approximately 26,000 years, sometimes referred to as the Great Year. Within this vast span, the position of the equinox moves through the zodiac. Ancient cultures often described golden ages, declining ages, and eventual renewal. While these myths operate symbolically, some researchers propose that they reflect awareness of long celestial cycles. Civilizations rise and fall within a larger astronomical rhythm. Time is not linear, it is cyclical. Megalithic monuments enduring across millennia may have served as markers within this great turning. Stone anchors slow time. Precision without modern tools. Modern skepticism often questions whether ancient civilizations could truly track such complex cycles. Yet tracking does not require telescopes. It requires patience. A community that observes star positions annually and records alignments through architecture can accumulate knowledge across generations. Precession becomes visible when temple alignments no longer match original stellar targets. Shifts become noticeable over centuries. knowledge builds slowly. Stone stores it. Debate and interpretation. It is important to acknowledge that interpretations of megalithic astronomy vary. Mainstream archaeology tends to accept solar and lunar alignments, but remains cautious regarding intentional encoding of precession. Alternative researchers often argue for deeper astronomical knowledge than traditionally accepted. The truth may lie between extremes. Ancient builders clearly observed the sky carefully. Whether they conceptualized precession mathematically or experienced it observationally remains open. But what cannot be dismissed is this. The alignment exists, the patterns are there. The stones point to the sky. Architecture as timekeeping. If Chapter 13 explored architecture as frozen myth, Chapter 14 extends that idea. Megalithic monuments may function as frozen time. Each alignment captures a moment in celestial geometry. As centuries pass and stars drift, monuments preserve memory of earlier sky configurations. They become temporal anchors, not clocks ticking seconds, but clocks measuring ages. The human desire to anchor the infinite. Why build in stone? Because flesh forgets. Language evolves. Empires collapse. But stone endures. To align stone with the sky is to anchor human experience within something larger and slower than individual life. It stabilizes identity within cosmic rhythm. It declares we are part of this cycle. The great celestial cycle dwarfs human lifespan, yet through architecture, humans participate in it. Tasher from observation to meaning. Whether ancient builders consciously tracked precession, to understand why precession may have mattered to ancient observers, we must first understand what it actually is. Earth does not spin like a perfectly upright top. Its axis is tilted, and like a spinning top, it slowly wobbles. This wobble causes the position of the equinox to shift gradually against the backdrop of the stars. Each year, during the spring equinox, the sun rises in front of a slightly different stellar background. Over centuries, that shift becomes noticeable. Over approximately 2,160 years, the equinox moves through one zodiac constellation. Over roughly 26,000 years, it completes a full cycle. This means that the age associated with a constellation is not random mythology. It corresponds to the background stars behind the sun during equinox. If ancient civilizations tracked the rising point of the sun at equinox over many generations, they would eventually notice that the sun was no longer rising against the same constellation. The sky itself was drifting. This is not something one individual could detect within a single lifetime, but civilizations endure longer than individuals. Temple alignments that once perfectly framed a specific star would slowly lose accuracy. Future generations might rebuild or adjust monuments to match the new celestial position. In that sense, architecture becomes a record of astronomical drift. Taurus, Aries, Pisces, symbolic transition. Let us consider symbolic transitions more closely. Around 4000 to 2000 BCE, bull symbolism dominated in parts of the Near East and Mediterranean. The bull appears in Mesopotamian iconography, in the worship of Apis in Egypt, and in the Minoan bull-leaping traditions. If the vernal equinox was occurring in Taurus during this era, bull symbolism aligning with spring renewal becomes symbolically coherent. Later, ram imagery rose in prominence. The ram became sacred in certain Near Eastern traditions. In Egypt, Amun was depicted with ram horns. In Hebrew tradition, the ram appears in key sacrificial narratives. If the equinox shifted into Aries during this period, the symbolism transitions accordingly. Later still, fish symbolism becomes prominent in various traditions. Whether interpreted literally, spiritually, or symbolically, the fish becomes an identifying motif during the age of Pisces. The pattern suggests symbolic response to astronomical drift. Even if ancient civilizations did not describe precession mathematically, they may have encoded its consequences mythologically. The sky changes. Symbols follow. The long view of civilization. Precession forces us to confront a humbling reality. Human civilization spans only a small fraction of the Great Year. Entire empires rise and collapse within a single zodiacal age. From this perspective, megalithic monuments appear as attempts to anchor human existence within something far more stable. Stone does not prevent change, but it witnesses it. When we stand at Stonehenge today, we are observing an instrument built to measure celestial movement that outlasted the culture that constructed it. This implies intention beyond immediate utility. It suggests awareness of continuity. Higher astronomical knowledge without writing. A common assumption in modern thought is that complex astronomical knowledge requires advanced mathematics and written documentation. Yet sky observation does not require algebra. It requires repetition. A culture that observes sunrise points along the horizon year after year can mark extreme positions with stones. Over time, patterns emerge. If the extreme positions slowly shift, that shift becomes noticeable across generations. Memory can be architectural rather than textual. Knowledge can be spatial rather than numerical. Ancient monuments may represent cumulative observations stored in structure rather than manuscript. Academic debate and caution. It is important to approach these interpretations responsibly. Mainstream archaeology acknowledges solar and lunar alignments at many sites. There is substantial evidence for intentional solstice and equinox orientation. Precession, however, remains more controversial. Some scholars argue that evidence for intentional encoding of precession is insufficient. Others propose that mythological transitions strongly suggest awareness of long-term celestial change. The debate continues, but debate itself implies that the question is worth asking. The stones are aligned, the patterns are measurable. Interpretation may vary, but alignment is not speculation. Architecture as civilizational memory. Consider what it means to build something that will endure thousands of years. Such construction implies intention beyond immediate survival. It suggests a desire to preserve knowledge beyond a single generation. In oral cultures, stories preserve memory. In literate cultures, texts preserve memory. In megalithic cultures, stone preserves memory. The sky shifts slowly. Monuments record those shifts. In this sense, megaliths function as time capsules, not of artifacts, but of alignment. They preserve a moment in celestial geometry. The psychological weight of deep time. There is also a psychological dimension to contemplating precession. To recognize a 26,000-year cycle alters perception of time. It expands identity beyond immediate historical narratives. Ancient mythologies often describe golden ages, silver ages, declining ages, and eventual renewal. Whether literal or symbolic, these age structures reflect cyclical thinking. Time is not a straight line, it is a turning wheel. Megalithic architecture reinforces that worldview physically. Standing stones arranged in circles reflect cyclical temporality. Circular time contrasts with modern linear progress models. It invites patience. The great cycle continues today. Modern astronomy confirms axial precession with precision instruments. Satellites measure tilt. Calculations predict equinox drift centuries into the future. Yet the phenomenon itself has not changed since the first stone was raised. The equinox continues its slow migration. The background stars shift imperceptibly year by year. The great celestial cycle unfolds exactly as it did when ancient builders watched the horizon. The difference is not in the sky. It is in awareness. Ancient monuments invite us to restore that awareness, to look up again, to notice drift, to recognize that our age, like those before it, is part of a larger turning.